talk about fears. Let's talk about love. Yeah, I got fears, but I ain't got no love. Yes, I got fears. Fear of plane crash. Fear of car crash. Oh, fear of sex. Fear of alcohol.
All right, so I want to talk about a elite member's request. They wanted me to take a brief look at the Brittanee Drexel missing persons case from South Carolina. So, from what I gather, Brittany was 17 years old. She lived in Rochester, New York, and she basically went to Myrtle Beach on spring break without permission from her mother. She had lied to her mom and said that she had, let me adjust this so you're not getting that window there. She had basically snuck out, saying she was going to stay the night with some friends. One of the friends pretended to be an adult when Brittany's mom asked to speak to an adult to make sure there was adult supervision. She basically lied, okay? She lied and she went to Myrtle Beach with 3 friends. While at Myrtle Beach, and let me get the date right on this. I know it was in April, but I want to make sure I get the right year. April 2009. Why she's at Myrtle Beach? Now, I'm fairly familiar with Myrtle Beach. I've been there a number of times, and it's pretty busy, but it's not like any other oceanside spring break resort. Is it troublesome? Not really. I mean, it's just like any other place. The later you're out or whatever, trouble might find you, but there's no reason to think that she would be harmed. So Brittany's in Myrtle Beach. She decides to visit a friend, which is about a mile, maybe a mile and a half walk from the hotel that she's staying at. She walks down there, meets this guy, and he's a friend from back home. She's seen on surveillance video walking there and arriving and then leaving that hotel. While she's walking back, she's texting her boyfriend who lives in Rochester. Everything seems fine up until about 8:45, 9 o'clock. She never makes it back past that first surveillance video camera that saw her. Texts stopped coming, and she's never heard from again. Very nightmarish. So, police investigators do what police investigators do, especially in nowadays, is get cell phone records. The cell phone records show her cell phone starting to ping in a different direction from where she is supposed to be going. And when she left that hotel with the friend who she was seeing, she was to be returning back to her hotel. Like I said, she never made it to the first surveillance camera that seen her coming in this direction. You would assume that she'd be found going the other direction on the surveillance camera. She never was. She never made it there. Texts from her boyfriend stopped. You can put that probably right around 9 o'clock at night in April. Not sure. I should have checked the Farmer's Almanac and see. At 9 o'clock at April, it still might be daylight out. That would be important to know. But regardless, she's never seen. But her cell phone was pinging, going the opposite direction. First, it was 7 miles away, and then the last ping was near a town. I want to call it McClellanville, and I just want to make sure I'm pronouncing it correctly. McClellanville. Yeah. Now, that's when it stopped. In June of 2016, there is a hearing in which an FBI agent gives testimony about an informant named Taekwon Brown. And what he says is that he went to a stash house, and a stash house, for you guys that don't know, I mean, I worked in the drug world under cover narcotics for the FBI, along with the district attorney's office, and I ran a drug task force. So a stash house is a place where really nobody lives. Okay, maybe some people will stay there. There's not a lot of furniture, not a lot of belongings. Might be a mattress on the bed, but that's where your drugs and your weapons are stashed. Now, the reason they're stashed there, hence a stash house, is because if they do a search warrant on your house, they're not going to find the drugs or the weapons. They're in the stash house. But if you do surveillance, I've done thousands of hours of surveillance, following drug dealers from their house to the stash house. You can usually tell where the stash house is. I mean, that's where the traffic goes to. It doesn't go to the individual drug dealer's house all the time. But anyhow, this informant, this Taekwon Brown, who apparently was 8 months into a 25-year sentence, decided to speak up and say that he saw Brittany at one of these stash houses, and when he walked in, she was being gang raped by 8 individuals. And then, again, and this is convoluted because he's given a couple different stories from what I understand. But on this story, he sees her being gang raped. She tries to escape. She's pistol whipped, drugged back into the house, and then killed. And the reason he knows she was killed is he heard 2 gunshots. But later on, he had said that he had actually seen her 4 times. And she was killed by a shotgun blast out by a road somewhere. His story just doesn't add up to me. It seems to me, well, the FBI seems to took over this case, and they offered a reward of $25,000, I think, and such. But it just doesn't add up to me. His story, and I would hope that the FBI, and I would think, when I worked for the FBI, I thought they were, I was there. Well, what's it say? October of 2008 to April 2011, when I worked with them and for them. They treated me great, and I had access to everything. But listen, every police department, every law enforcement entity, just like every human being, is fallible. But I would hope that they have a lot more evidence than what they put out publicly, accusing. I'll take Taekwon Brown accused Tim Taylor, I believe was his name. He called him by name. The point being is then the FBI had a press conference and stated they knew what happened to Brittany. She was killed, kidnapped, killed, and then dropped into a pit. And a pit is basically an alligator swamp. I would want to know a lot more. I have to know a lot more. When you don't have a crime scene, it's very hard to do any sort of assessments. That's why missing person cases are so hard. Now, as a detective, you follow the evidence. That's okay. But as me sitting here trying to give an assessment on a missing persons case without a crime scene or a body dump location, it's very difficult. And basically, it's impossible. So it's hard for me to do this video. But as I said, an elite member requested it, and therefore, I'm going to do it for them. But what I can comment on is Tyquan Brown's allegations. I don't find merit to it on the surface. Now, again, I'm sure we, the public, and now me as the public, no longer with the FBI or any law enforcement, do not know everything that the FBI knows. But what they have released, I don't like. Meaning I'm not sure I believe this informant's account. Now, there is no doubt to me that Brittanee Drexel was kidnapped around 9 o'clock. That's pretty apparent, I believe. Now, who, what, why is a different story. Human trafficking is certainly a possibility, if not even a probability. But what I'm sitting here thinking is the time of day when that happened, 9 o'clock at night. I think it probably was getting dark if it wasn't already. But there is a lot of street lights in Myrtle Beach from what I recollect. And there's a lot of traffic. She was forced into a vehicle. Now, I know it can be done like that. I'm not ignorant to that fact. But you would think somebody would have saw something. Now, I find it more probable that maybe the walk down, when I was researching this and I saw the walk and it was like a mile, was it like a mile? Mile and a half walk from where she left her hotel to this individual named Peter Berkowitz's hotel. I want to say it was a mile at least. And to me, I was like, wow, yeah, right there. Around 8 p.m., Drexel left her friends at the Bar Harbor Hotel beachfront to walk 1.5 miles south down to South Ocean Boulevard to another hotel, the Blue Water Resort, to visit a longtime friend who was staying there. So when I first read that, I'm like, man, that's a little bit of a jaunt. Now, maybe I'm saying that because I'm 47 years old and I don't want to walk 1.5 miles. And I'd be curious to know what her footwear was. Maybe it was just flip-flops, but maybe she realized that was a bit longer than what she thought it was going to be. So on the walk back, maybe some guys yelled at her, hey, you want a ride? Where are you going? And she accepted a ride. Victimology would tell you that. So her friends, her family would tell you, hey, listen, a lot of people will not get into cars with strangers, and their family and friends will tell you that. However, I will say that spring break is a little bit different, especially if people are your age and they want to, get a ride. Everybody's there for the same purpose, to have fun, to party. I've seen it happen. You get into the car. You don't think about it. Now, it would be different if alarm would go off if it was a 45, 46-year-old male. If I was down there yelling at a girl and trying to get her in my car who's 17, well, then I bet you she wouldn't get in. But with somebody her age, yes. I don't think she would hesitate. And maybe she did that. But regardless, something happened where they're no longer going north. They're turned around heading south. Now, the only thing that gives me confidence in the FBI's account is that the location, her cell phone was last heard in McClellanville, where this stash house allegedly was. But that doesn't mean that could have been when the kidnapper threw the cell phone out the car window or destroyed it or whatever. It doesn't mean it ended there. But it could. Again, this is what happens. Let's say I'm working, let's say it's 2010. I'm in the FBI office and somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, Kenny, go interview this guy. He's over in the prison. He's got information on a missing persons case." Okay. I go over, interview him. He gives me this story. The first thing I do, is why are you telling us this now? Well, I feel, bad. This girl's been missing for so many years, and I want to... No, quit bullshitting me. Tell me the real reason. If that was the real reason, you would have told me before you went into prison. You're in here for 8 months on a 25-year sentence. Now tell me the real deal. All right, I'm looking to reduce my sentence. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Let's start with the facts. Who did you see? Give me the names, addresses. Have you met these people before? Do you know them? Yes, I know them. I bought drugs off of them before. Okay. If they say that, then I'm listening. Because now he's not minimizing his involvement in the drug transactions, the drug trades that puts him in the stash house. Now, if he had said, yeah, I mean, I know him. I went to school with him, but, that was it. Listen, we're almost done here, buddy. Okay? Unless you're going to come forward and tell me, the truth. Quit minimizing your involvement. We got nothing else to talk about. Yeah, I'd go there and buy drugs. And so 8 people raping her. Okay, well, tell me about that. What did she look like? Was she beat up? How do you know it was her? Did she have any tattoos? Anything like that? He says, well, then I went out back, was talking to somebody else. She tried to escape. And they pistol whipped her. Well, okay, well, who's they? What did the gun look like? Do you know that person? What happened after she got pistol whipped? Did she get knocked out or did she just submit? Did she go back in the house willingly? Did they drag her back in? Did you think something was wrong at that point in time? When you left the drug house, why not call the police then and there? All those questions is what I'd be asking. He then says, I heard 2 shots. And I knew that she was killed. That I have a problem with. All this takes place in the 5 minutes that you're there to make a drug transaction. All this just be happenstance. Why would they kill her in your presence? Are you that close with them? Because if it's a stranger or somebody that is not a good associate with those individuals, why kill her? And now you know that they killed her. Why didn't they kill you? So there's things like that just doesn't add up to me. Then he says he saw the body being removed. It was wrapped up in a rug and removed from the house and dumped in an alligator pond. Well, how do you know it was dumped in an alligator pond? Did you go with them? So now you're involved in it if you went with them. If you just saw them, how do you know that she was dumped in this alligator pond? I would want to know what the relationship is between this Taquan Brown and, Tim Taylor. Is there animosity there? Were they rival drug dealers? Now, I watched an interview with Taylor, and one of the things, he came off okay, I guess. But one thing that stood out that I didn't like is he gave an excuse as why he could not have kidnapped Brittany. And one of the excuses was, well, don't you know that I was only 15 at the time, or maybe he said 16. I didn't have a driver's license. Listen, I've chased drug dealers my whole career. They don't care whether they have driver's license. They break the law. You know how many times I pulled people over that didn't have driver's license that were 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 30 years old. So I didn't like that excuse that he gave. But again, that's not saying that he's guilty. The FBI have to have more than what I'm seeing, and I bet they do. Okay, I'm betting they do. I would sure like to see it, and I would like to know what it is. But I just have a problem with that story of Taquan's. But I think she was probably certainly kidnapped, and I guess it's a cautionary tale, I would say, to individuals. Just, you have to be careful. I don't like young girls traveling alone, especially young 5 foot, 105 pound, good looking girls in an unfamiliar area, even though you think you're safe. It's not always the case. So I wish I could give a better assessment of this case, other than to say I'm quite sure she was kidnapped. And from there, I mean, then it's a guessing game. Okay? And I don't make a fool of myself by guessing as to what happened. I go off of the facts, and those facts tell me that around 9 o'clock, somewhere around the that hotel parking lot. And I don't think that Peter Brazowitz has anything to do with it. There was speculation, and I think even Brittany's mom had said that. And hey, I'm not going to critique her. She's certainly been through enough, But I did read that she said that she believed that Peter Brazowitz had something to do with it. And I don't believe that. And the reason I don't believe that, I guess, is because she was already seen leaving his hotel. If he wanted to do something, why not do it in the privacy of your own hotel room? Now, if he was selling her into some sort of human trafficking situation, yeah, possibly. I can envision him being up in his room, calling the cell phone to the people down in the parking lot. Hey, she just left. She's on her way. But then again, why take her right off of the street where you have so many witnesses? Why not drug her when you have her in the hotel room? Or knock her out. Whatever you do, you can control her there. I don't know. I just don't buy that guy's involved. I don't know, and I shouldn't even say that because I don't have any facts to back that up, but there's just, I'd have to look at his background a little bit more. Now, he had left that nightclub. He had left that hotel at 2 a.m. Now, right off the onset, I felt that may be suspicious. But she was kidnapped at 9. Okay? So why didn't he check out the hotel at 10 p.m. then? You know what I mean? Why not go right then and there? They left at 2 because he said they wanted to beat the traffic. They had to drive all the way back to New York. I can get behind that. Okay? So, yeah, initially I found that odd too, but listen, when people start looking at things with a fine type of comb, you're always going to find something that is weird. You can find it in anything. And that's the rabbit holes that investigators try not to go down. So I wish I could give a better assessment on this for you. And maybe at some point in time I could dig into it a little bit deeper if maybe I had cell phone records or something. If you remember, my very first cold case was a missing person that later, I got a confession and it turned into a homicide, and the remains were never found either. So, I mean, there could be some correlation to this case, but I don't have access to any of that stuff anymore. So, it's tough speculating of what happened to poor Brittany, and I feel so sorry for her family, of course, and, someday, hopefully, more information will come out. But that's all I got for this. I wish I could give a better assessment, but I really can't without just being pure speculation and guessing, and I don't work like that. I got to work on facts. So the facts that I saw, the facts that I researched, I conveyed to you, and those are my beliefs. Okay? Hey, wish I could do more, but I can't on this case, so maybe.